Hey, Dave Paulides, CanAm Missing Project. This is a copyrighted edition for my YouTube page. And we're at Lions Reservoir en route to Hungry Horse Reservoir up near Glacier National Park. The lake is just now starting to break, and probably sometime in the next 3 days, the fishing on this lake is going to be unbelievable. So I'm actually anxious because I'm going to get my rod and come here. I'll let you know how it is. So first of all, thanks to everybody who made their comments the last couple days. Some fantastic comments, and I deeply appreciate it. Some people have asked me some questions about, has there been a missing persons case since the coronavirus came out? And obviously some of you haven't been watching my videos because we actually did a case in the past about a missing couple from Australia. So you can go back in the other videos and watch it. They're still missing. They still haven't found them. Other than that, I'm going to get right into it real quick and talk to you about the first email I got that was very thoughtful. It says, Dave, true compassion is hard to find today. Here is the literal translation of compassion, quoting, "When you are so moved by the plight of someone, when you leave where you are and what you are doing and go straight to someone to help them." End of quotes. Pity does not qualify. Empathy and sympathy don't either. You, Mr. Paulides, are the personification of compassion. Thank you for going towards these people and helping them and to their plight and to assist them, giving them as many answers as you can. Thank you. Many of you have asked in the past for me to do a video that you could give to somebody who knows nothing of the topic that would be convincing that this topic is meaningful. Well, a person wrote me a letter this week, and I'm going to read it to you. And this is really what you want to put in front of people if they know nothing of the topic. It's pretty good. Dear Dave, regardless of your personal feelings about detractors and trolls, we, your collective audience and body of followers, appreciate your accomplishments. Do not deceive yourself by thinking you're not getting a serious message across to people. Because of you and the information you have gathered over the decades and the facts you've outlined for us, facts you have identified and organized and presented, we know these things. And here comes the list. Number 1. You showed us that all across America and even on other continents there is a phenomenon occurring that results in people disappearing, whereas many are never found, and many who are discovered, the circumstances are unexplainable and defy logic. Number 2, you proved that in our nation alone there is a factual evidence that identifies specific geographical areas where many people have disappeared. Yeah, geographical cluster map has identified 61 areas in North America. Number 3, you identified a significant enigma called the point of separation that goes beyond chance or luck, or the roll of the dice, that can neither be explained or accounted for. 4, because of your work and ability to organize facts, you showed us specific characteristics of the weather before, during, and after disappearance, which identifies another phenomena, event, that argues against logic and probability. 5, you presented factual data that proves a solitary person can disappear while alone or in small or large groups. Number 6, you presented factual evidence that revealed in some cases unusual or supernatural events were taking place before, during, or after some disappearances, where objects or entities or figures or energies were observed that could not be identified or explained. Number 7, you proved that individuals in positions of power and authority in government agencies and even some elected officials refused to engage in meaningful conversation or reciprocal sharing of information or actions, and even exhibited purposeful actions that prohibited in-depth investigations to proceed. Number 8, your data shows us age is not a specific factor in that people of all age groups have disappeared in many different locations and settings. Number 9, your data shows personal beliefs, religion or education, and even health status or outdoor skill set do not apply as to making anyone exempt. Number 10, The carrying a personal GPS location device may be a significant tool in preventing a new disappearance. And boy, and that is one thing that I hammer home every time I can. You need to carry a personal locator transponder every time you go into the woods. And why is that? Because nobody that I know of that's been carrying a gun and a personal locator beacon has ever disappeared. And that's just a fact. This woman goes on. This list could go on and on. The public owes you a great deal of thanks for bringing all of this to our attention. Whether your mandate was personal or inspired by unseen forces, you've been a great service to the public. Because of you, I've shared your videos with friends and family, especially among the hunters and outdoorsmen and family with children. Because of you, I tell my friends and family to maintain better situational awareness. One thing that bugs me, it has always bugged me, when I'm on a hike deep in the mountains and I see somebody trucking along and they've got earbuds on or headphones on and they're just going along and they are completely oblivious to their surroundings as far as hearing. There's a lot in the woods that you need to hear, so don't do that. At least keep one earbud out. Because I am a Christian, I'm aware of the battle between good and evil. I acknowledge my sixth sense and have always encouraged my children and grandchildren to listen to their gut instinct, to pay attention to inner feelings no matter where they are or what they're doing. One of 5 kids, all raised in a conservative Christian family during the 50s and 60s, 4 of us have had supernatural, unexplainable, otherworldly, scary, and disturbing experiences, from sleep paralysis, something or someone in our room at night, UFO sightings, orbs, dimensional portals, appearing and seeing other people and animals and objects, growing up surrounded by wood knocks, tree falling, whoops, howls, screams, rocks, sticks, acorns, pine cones thrown, gifted flowers, dead small animals, feathers, rocks, and such. I think she just covered it all. Footprints, rock stacks, bowed trees and limbs, weird designed tree limbs and shelter-like structures, weird smells and feelings of sicknesses or wooziness. I mean, there's a lot there. Mom said it stopped when she prayed to God to keep us all safe. It did stop. She ignored the dogs, turned around, and walked back into the woods across the road, back into the pine forest where it came from. Our dad was working night shift that night, so me and most of my family have had recurring supernatural events take place our entire lives. I believe in supernatural beings and events, yet I still believe in God and the Bible as is inspired. Okay, hold on. Some of you are upset, angry, you're starting to type me, and hold your taters. Everybody has a different belief system. And just maybe the person across the table from you that doesn't think like you may have more knowledge on a certain topic than you do. And if they don't, maybe it was the way they were raised, the input from their parents, from their teachers, from their elders. But just because they think different from you doesn't make them wrong and you right. And I think that we need, as a society, to understand that the perspective one person has graduating from one college is different from another in another part of the world from another college. Same with churches and spiritual beliefs. One of my best friends, Harvey Pratt, who's one of the great spiritual advisors I think of right now, being from that Native American background and philosophy, I listen to him as much as I can, and he's very respectful of everyone's beliefs. So I wish we as a society could be the same. And whether you realize it or not, much of the work you have shared has shown that supernatural beings and events are still taking place. We can't explain it all, barely explain hardly any of it. But your work has shown good people and bad people that there's a dark force at work where there's a dangerous and a real probability of it occurring. Predictable yet unpredictable, avoidable yet unavoidable, physical yet supernatural. And therein lies the conundrum, folks. Predictable yet unpredictable. Avoidable yet unavoidable, and physical yet supernatural. And just as the Bible shows that mankind has a history and record of willingly, purposely seeking out and joining forces with dark spiritual supernatural forces, your work shows us and proves to us that people and agencies in some positions of power and authority still today join forces with these same dark and evil forces, and likely even protect certain places and entities. So all that said, where to now, Dave? What is the next step for you? What's the next stop? Should you stop? Revamp the same stories. Find new stories. What can we expect from you? Do we have a right to expect anything else from you? The answer, no. We don't. Your message is out there for everybody who cares to learn. Just go read the books. But if you're looking for or needing a new direction, how about this? Put together a series on how we can protect ourselves. How can we enhance our safety and decrease the likelihood of disappearing? Produce a series where you interview people who have had a woo experience and escaped. How did they? And if people prayed to God, then tell us. If they recited the Quran, tell us. If they used their own wits and improvised like any fit jarhead Marine recon is trained to do, then tell us. If they followed the Native American elders' advice in those circumstances, then advise us. If they followed Granny's and Papa's advice, tell us that. Now right there, that letter writer covered the whole gamut. And that to me is really respectable. I for one hope you don't stop informing us or teaching us, sharing events and telling stories. I do wish you would consider a series on actions we can take or help possibly make us safer for hunters, for parents, for hikers, campers. What about loggers and timber cruisers? Either way, your books are valuable. Your interviews and presentations are valuable. Now tell the ones who want to know, what can they do to better protect themselves, families, and loved ones? Produce a series. Kickstart it if you have to. Or collaborate with some of the others in your circle. Or seek out someone, a partner with whom you trust. Why not patent a personal tracking device like a watch or bracelet or necklace? Or insert it into clothing with hunters, children, elders, or campers. Make some money for possible new projects. Hook up with a satellite GPS company or start one. Revised version of how people can track their families. If my brothers or son-in-laws were going hunting solo in Alaska, I'd feel much better if they were carrying a transmission device and not just a cell phone. Maybe go back to Hoopa or go to another Native American location. What would the Native Indians be willing to share about their people's history and experience about how they disappeared? Well, a lot of you don't know, or maybe you weren't even paying attention, but in the Hoopa Project and in Tribal Bigfoot, I actually talked a lot about Native Americans disappearing, and I interviewed people about that. Haha, a little insight. How did they handle the situation other than avoid certain areas? Maybe that's the key. Maybe they are just oblivious. Maybe there are just obvious places we should avoid. And maybe there are. And I covered that in Missing 411, The Devil's in the Detail. You know, are those locations where devil is in the name something that we should stay away from? Devil, Diablo, etc. And then how did those locations get their name? Who knows? But I thank you for that email. I read it a couple times, and I think there's a lot of good points in there. And you reciting what I've given back to the community, I appreciate it. And hopefully some of you can use this video to put it in front of people who know nothing about the topic. And I would encourage everybody to put this on social media and let them know what our proctor is for goodwill here. Now, there's a case that I haven't really talked about publicly ever, and it involves a hunter that disappeared in Minnesota in November 2019. I want to talk about that story, and I want you to pay attention. If you're a good student, you're going to realize that there's several points that come across in this story that are going to be good profile indicators. Lee Peltier wasn't dressed for nasty weather last month when he went deer hunting east of Hinckley, Minnesota, wearing camouflage pants, red shirt, blaze orange vest, and an orange stocking hat. Folks, everyone should have found this guy. Wearing those kind of colors, he should have stood out like a sore thumb. This was written in December of 2019. Peltier planned to be in the Bemidji State Forest for just a short time on Saturday, November 3rd. It was shortly before lunchtime when he and 3 friends went out to hunt. Peltier and John Warner, one of the owners of the cabin, were staying and headed to a nearby pond. They separated on purpose, said Peltier's daughter. My dad was going to walk along the edge of the pond. John was going to walk up on a higher bluff. If there were any deer drinking in the pond, my dad had flushed the deer out and run towards John so he could shoot him. Story sound familiar? It should. Tom Messick was sitting as the younger boys and his son flushed deer towards him in the New York story Missing 411 Hunted. It's just like a big feeling of emptiness, said the daughter. We have no idea what happened. We have no idea where he ended up. Every time we walked out of the forest, it just felt like we were leaving him behind. It was awful. It's really important that we recover him because he's out there by himself. We need him back. Peltier, 59, is an experienced outdoorsman. He loves to hunt ducks and deer. He often went hunting on his 100-acre family farm where he lived in Lake Elmo. When Peltier didn't show up for lunch on Saturday, his friends assumed he had spotted a deer and was tailing it. They didn't think much of it until a couple hours later when it was dusk and then dark and then no one showed up. There's no cell phone service in the area, so the men stood outside, built a huge bonfire, and listened for gunshots. If a hunter is in distress, they'll shoot 3 shots in the air, DeCourcy said. Huge point. That's one reason why I tell people to carry a gun, because it's an excellent locator beacon. Because if you're gone, shoot 3 rounds, that's an indicator that somebody is in distress. The weather didn't help. Rain turned into snow and the temperatures dropped to 21 degrees. So what are the 2 points you have so far? Point of separation, when he separated from his friend, and the weather turned at the time he disappeared. The men went to search the next morning, then headed down, and about a half-hour drive away, they had to call 911. The call came in at 11:24 a.m. 5 officers from Pine County Sheriff's and the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources arrived and searched by foot and ATV until dark. The next morning, friends and family arrived from the metro area and searched the forest, which encompasses 93,000 square acres in Pine and Carleton counties, Minnesota. His son said, "You have to see it to believe it. It's just one big giant bog." Point number 3, bogs and swamps play into this all the time. It's so thick, it's so easy to get turned around. We had a group of 12 of us in the search party and we thought we were walking west, and then we stopped and looked at the compass and we were going southeast. For people who don't live in a flat area, but you live in mountains like we're at right now, it's easy to pick out a spot in a mountain and walk towards it. When you're flat, you can't see a mountain and it's easy to start walking in circles, which is the reason you need a GPS and a compass, and then believe in those devices and follow them. They typically find lost people within a half mile of their last known location, but I think it's a lot further away than they think, David Paulides, the son, said. He was physically fit and I think he covered a lot of ground. Lee Peltier, who owns a sign and crane company, didn't have a backpack or water or even a lighter, DeCourcy said. He may have fallen into the pond or he could have just gotten turned around. Big point right here, a learning point. And I don't mean to talk badly about the missing. But when you go into the woods, I don't care what you're doing, you carry a light backpack, a couple of bottles of water, a couple of energy bars, and always an emergency blanket. And there's other safety devices that I've identified that aren't very heavy that are in an earlier video. Watch it and carry it. Cell phone records indicate that Peltier made 3 calls from 1:40 p.m. November 3rd to fellow hunters, but his phone didn't die until 5:30 a.m. the next morning. If he had gone into the water on Saturday, his phone would have died well before then because the phone would have been damaged, she said. It's so hard and confusing because you think one thing makes sense and then it doesn't. The Pine County Sheriff's Office headed a multi-agency search that included 100 searchers. On the morning of November 9th, Sheriff Jeff Nelson announced the search was halting, but they said they would continue to follow up on any new leads. Here's a little education for you. If you ever know anybody that has a relative that's gone missing, at about that 4 to 7 day cycle, the search and rescue people are going to come to you and explain everything they did and sound very confused and frustrated and running out of resources, and basically try to convince you to call off the search. You need to be real adamant that that search needs to go on if you think that that relative especially is alive. The problem is that 99% of all search and rescue is done by volunteers, people like you and me that have to go back to work. So it's hard to keep those people in the field for 2-3 weeks because they have families and they have to make a living, and it's tough. So in this incident, we've gone through an entire hunting cycle where dozens and dozens of people have probably gone through the same area where Lee disappeared. It hasn't been found. Nothing has been found. Even though he was wearing super bright clothing, guns don't disappear. That bright clothing should stick out easily. So his family, at right now the 5-month cycle, is obviously very, very concerned that nothing has turned up. Doesn't make any sense. So prayers to them. And I hope that people in Minnesota read this, and if you have a free weekend and you want to go out hiking, take a couple friends with you, spend that time in that area, and you could do a good thing by going out there and looking for somebody who is missing. So again, the reservoir here is about ready to break. Maybe I'll come back and shoot a video when I'm fishing here. But if not, I appreciate everybody subscribing. This is one of those videos where I wish that everybody would put it on their social media so they could understand the overview of the topic and they could see the value of it. I appreciate your support. I can't even tell you how much. Everyone have a great week. Thank you.